This is No Bullshit Gaming Podcast on our Gamer Session number 22. We're discussing the latest industry news, having fun, having a lot of fun, and dropping knowledge. But let's not forget, again, this is 4 a.m. conference discussion vibe. Please stop being so serious. And today, we have a special episode. We have Felix, Admon, Guru, Braberg again, Jakub, game design specialist, Remiar, myself, UA bro, Matej, Lančarič, and a special guest, Enric, super important VP of growth, Pedró at Tilting Point. And welcome. But let's do a quick round of intros because that's a favorite activity of Felix, and we've didn't do it for a long time. So please, Enric, start. Let's start with you.
So thank you. Super important VP of growth, as you said it. So I oversee growth at Tilting Point. Tilting Point, for those who don't know, we are a mobile game publisher where our motto is to change developers' lives. Myself at the company, I oversee UA, organics, ad monetization on the featuring team. And we handle or manage about 40 games, although this number fluctuates a little bit because since we do live publishing, some games come on board and others go. But yeah, good to be here today.
Nice. Felix, how about yourself?
I try to get as much ad ARP down as possible from games. I'm like an octopus on the reef.
That's you. Okay, good to know. Jakub, let's continue with you.
Yeah, currently serving as head of monetization at Triplight, but pretty much doing all game designy stuff. Been doing that for like 7 years now. A lot of games behind and a lot of games, I hope, waiting there to be designed.
Yeah, and his favorite thing is also hugging a microphone.
That's the other hobby.
And myself, Matej, Lančarič, I'm, doing all the UA fun stuff for some companies around the world, creatives as well. And let's dive in. So today we'll be discussing how Tilting Point became a record ship. Everything from UA, admon, game design to Web3 activities and much more. But before diving into the topic, hit the subscribe button, guys. And let's do that on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. So let's dive in.
So Enric, my first question here is one that I've heard like about a year ago.
Okay.
I have a friend of mine who works at Goldman Sachs in New York, and he said that basically both JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs have been trying to snap up as many shares as possible of Tilting Point in the secondary market from current employees and former employees, and have been offering quite a hefty markup for these shares. What the hell are you guys up to, and how are you growing so fast? What's going on?
Full disclosure, I have not been poached by any of those, nor tried to do so. But I'm holding on those for the time being. What's the secret? The secret is, I think, the market speaks by itself, and there are a few companies in the space that are able to evolve as the market evolves. It didn't work out too well, but that's how it is. So market became gaming as it is, and mobile, moreover, it changes almost, I would say, quarter year basis. And Tilting Point is able to adapt and assist small developers to become bigger entities in the space. So that's ultimately, as I mentioned earlier on the introduction, our motto is to change developers' lives. And as such, if you think about it on the paper, if you are able to identify a gem or a golden nugget, if you will, on the crowded mobile space, and you are able to grow this game to a substantial UA spend and so on, and revenue, obviously, that's music to any investor's ears. And so I think all in all, after doing this for a few years now, some of our direct competitors have basically disappeared, and we knew that they were going into the space with questionable markups on the games that we were actually trying to poach as well. And time put everyone on its place, and Tilting Point is still standing to this day whereas others are not anymore. So I think that kind of like paints you a good story on why these VCs, banks, and so on are eager to get some
I
of
think
these shares.
we all worked at one of those companies that are disappearing at
I'm
the
not
moment.
I'm not dropping any names just in case.
We are not. Yeah, we're not dropping any names as well, but we've been there, done that. It's great you mentioned these gems in terms of the companies. Like, it's really interesting to see that you are managing 40-ish companies. Like, how are you actually able to identify these companies so early? Like, how do you snipe like these companies? Because
So
it looks like you talked, I think, to almost every possible company out there. Every time I try to talk to
our
someone, like, yeah,
tentacles,
well,
like Felix octopus.
yeah, that's the octopus. Yeah, that's the octopus right there.
Tilting Point is also an octopus on the reef, but a bit bigger one.
Yeah.
We are cracking. So basically, our to start with, our business development team does, I think, an outstanding role or job, being able to have these meaningful discussions with small indie developers. It's not that easy to speak the same language. That's one. And then beyond bringing on board these several developers with at least good intentions or good products in the works or recently released, our data / insights team does a really good job as well on giving us or giving pointers to the team, BD, on what is that we should be looking for a game. Once we get this game into our aim, or we start having these discussions with the developer, and then it's a matter for us. We're normally going to do a short UA or a small UA test, a small quote unquote. It's going to depend on the developer, the game, and so on. And I think one of the beauties that Tilting Point has that not many mobile game developers have or do is that we really do an effort to adapt to the developer needs. I know it sounds a bit of a cliche, but each developer is an individual human being and it has its own rationale and its own vision on where they want to take the company. Some of them, their dream is going to be in 2 years' time, I don't want to do mobile gaming, I just want to sell my company and do something else. Others want to become a gaming juggernaut and have a big studio managing several titles. Obviously, it's a different take on its respectable position as a developer, and as such, we do an active effort to adapt to these developer needs or what's their vision, long-term vision, and that sounds really nice. But when it comes down to manage the game and internally to manage the growth, and so on, it can be challenging because non-game are equal. That's a given. But moreover, we need to keep in mind, okay, what this developer is going after, or why we onboard this developer, why are they working on a different game, or there are different rationales. So we always have to keep that in mind, because ultimately, again, we are helping developers to elevate the developers and their games, but it comes down to what's their ultimate goal and how we can match that with Tilting Point. Meaning that on some instances, this might not happen. The developer might have an outrageous acquisition number. And then I'm just going to give you a run. I want to get paid $100 million for this game. I'm like, dude, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's making $1 million. So yeah, sure, good luck with that. Others have, I don't know what I'm doing, so you guys tell me how we should do next. And so it really depends on the conversation. But all in all, I think adapting ourselves and evolving with the market, as I was hinting earlier, it helps a lot to try to find those gems. But it sounds like it sounds from the outside, or looks like from the outside, that we are really good at it. To be honest, it's a matter of keep trying. If it was that easy, everyone will be doing it, right? Exactly. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of resources.
Yeah, just one thing. Maybe take a step back, because I'm wondering, like, how is your company structured? Because you say BD do these things, you have insights from different departments, you do the UA tests. Like, how does that connect to all these processes? How you evaluate games?
Sure. To be fair, I joined Tilting Point about a year ago, so a lot of my work actually in the last few quarters has been on improving this existing process, or what it should be, or where we think we should be at to be actually more effective and less time consuming and less resource consuming.
Yeah.
So to your question, Matej, how we work out, or what's at least my vision on how it should work out. From the BD insights, we have an ongoing weekly call. We have Slack is our go-to, so everything is going to go through Slack,
100%.
synchronous communication, and so on. I mean, that's a given. Okay. Then we have a weekly call where we are reviewing for 1 hour. We're reviewing the incoming live publishing titles, and then an additional hour we're reviewing the ongoing deals where one of our studios think that this could be a good prospect to acquire, either the asset, the game, or the studio. Obviously, these are ongoing conversations. Not like we have once a week for every single week of the year. So with that, we have a really good feedback loop, or are we improving into learning or understanding what works and what doesn't work. Now, to the second part of the equation, once we have this deal on board, what we do is what we call it a growth assessment, where our UA team looks into what the developer has done in the past, Facebook, Google, Unity, whatever it is they've done. Our monetization team looks at how the game is currently being monetized, what SDKs they have in place, random one. If you don't have Facebook SDK, okay, that's going to be a quick 10 or 20% increase on ad revenue. So check. And then organics look into, as the name states, okay, how many metadata, how is their metadata on the stores? How many A/B tests have been doing? Is there any countries where you can take more volume out of that? So all in all these put together give us a coefficient percentage, on a confidence percentage, better said, on how likely we think or how much we think that we can grow this game and for how many months. This assessment is then passed back to BD, who has these conversations with the developer, and then we align in terms of, okay, these are the tilting point and vision that we have for your game. And then once we align with the developer on that vision, that's when it's likely for us to proceed with a proper test, a UA test, 10K, 15K, 5K. It really depends on the game, genre, and so on. Once we do this test, we see that the PLTV is towards the right direction, and we see that we can do a profitable operation with this game, because we're not going. Don't get me wrong, we're not going to spend money. We think that this.
Of course, that wouldn't make any sense.
There you go. And then if we see that it's working and we agree with the developer on the terms and so on, that's when we sign the IO or a contract with them, and then we start our cooperation. I think, I don't know, that's the vision that we have, but that's how we try to operate.
Is there a product kind of angle there somewhere in the equation during the evaluation?
That's such a really good point. There is a product review in place, yes, but I do believe that it's hard to. Okay, we ultimately end up relying on what the developer is willing to work on the game and their work or capabilities. Now, you as a developer, I'm going to ask you, okay, show me your roadmap. And you're going to show me, 6-month roadmap. That's a good sign. Show me the roadmap. Oh, we don't have a roadmap. Okay.
That's a bad sign.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
That's a sign that maybe we should step back on that one. So as a developer is listening to this, please showcase a roadmap. At least it shows your intentions on featurings, new product updates, and so on. Now, I know it's an obvious point, and everyone's going to be like, duh, but developers that I do see doing best are those that have a clear vision or idea on where their game product should be at and what their next features or updates are going to bring to the table. That being said, one of the issues that we are facing, or most developers faces, are Google ANRs, app non-responsives. And when we see many games that have well over the, I think it's 0.47 or 40%. 47, thank you, on the threshold. There is the benchmark from on the genre, etc. But we see many games are doing well and they're sitting at, 1.5, 1.8. And it's like, guys, we need to work on these ANRs first. But again, it's way easier said than done, and this is a super complicated topic. And ultimately, you're managing or you're discussing with a developer who has limited resources, and as such, you're like, hey guys, either I fix ANRs, which I then have a guaranteed of success rate, or I release this other feature update or product update, which is might improve ARPDAU by X or improve retention by Y. So it's a bit of like juggling or balancing between those topics. So back to the product question. Yes, there is a review on that, and obviously when we see that there is an active work from the developer on improving that product, and then it's when we actually, as a publisher, we even invest more resources and more time because we can tell that there is an active effort from the other side as well to make this happen with our existing title.
Okay, two follow-up questions. So, what happens when you're starting to work with the developers and they have the roadmap and they have some vision, but you come in, you see like, okay, so this is most probably not going to work as you think, and we have a different vision. Like, how do you try to convince the developer, like, hey guys, so we are the experts here, we know how this should work, so please just try to work on this with us.
Yes, it's a touchy subject, right?
Yeah.
We believe, or I believe, that the developer, the product owner, is ultimately the person who knows best what their product is about and what's ultimately, as we said earlier, their vision. I know that I or my team can bring to the table one of the best, if not the best, growth strategies or teams that we have. Because okay, we can obviously have some fuck ups every now and then, but overall, I think that we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I have no when it comes to growth strategy or how we're setting up campaigns, how we're optimizing, and so on. You can give me your opinions, but I'm quite confident that our team is top notch or A level on that regard. On the product side of things, on some instances, we're gonna ask our existing studios. So we'll have several studios which manage different genres or type of games, from puzzle to 4X. We're gonna ask them, hey, can you do a review on the game and provide some feedback to the developer on what they should be working on improving on. But these are suggestions. We cannot twist your arm or the developer arm to do this instead. We'll try to have a friendly, open communication. Again, easier said than done. And I'm sorry for previous developers who work with us, but some of them are a pain in the ass, or the human being is an asshole. So if you are, if you are an obnoxious human being that the team hates to work with, well, guess what's going to happen next? I'm going to have a really hard time asking the team to go the extra mile to work with you. Instead, if you are a good person, if you are an easy person to work with, and you leave, you give but you take some as well, that's when the cooperation tends to work better, because ultimately it's not me or me. It's not tilting point against the developer. It's like, call it a dating process where we get to know each other, then we go out for dinner, then maybe I invite you home. Next thing you know, maybe I'm asking you for the ring and you say yes. So that's the if you want to put it in life terms, that's ultimately we're going after for that marriage. But on some instances, after the second or third day, we're like, shit, what we thought or what the Tinder profile showed on the description wasn't actually a reality. So in those instances, like, well, we might have to step away and say, hey, this partnership isn't working out, so we're gonna just cut it. We try to be as well as polite and easy to depart ways as possible too.
Yeah, that's life. I mean, you can't be just you can't work with everybody on the world, and you just can't go well. Or
Correct.
I'm curious, actually. Like, so let's say I'm a developer. I have metrics for my game. I want to bring it to tilting point. Like, what is it exactly you look for in terms of metrics? Are you able to share a bit of that? I'm assuming something around retention, or like, what is it?
We look, so we go quite in depth with your data. So we're gonna request actually everything you can provide us. Normally, it's gonna come down to your MMP access. It's hopefully it's either singular, adjust, or apps buyer. When the developer comes on board, and it has happened in the past where they are managing, or they're obviously small developers don't have the means to do so, so they're relying on free SDKs or Firebase and the likes. That's a bit more complicated to manage. So what we look into your question, everything from retention to ARPDAU to LTV curve to ROAS, what they have been running in the past, and how much more we think we can scale the game. that ultimately, at least to the growth team, is what's going to dictate what we should do with this game. Because if I get a game on the pipeline and we don't believe that we are able to scale this game at least 20% or more, I'm not gonna. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of their time. Now it's a different. It's again. I mentioned earlier. We try to adapt to developer needs as much as we can. So it could well be that they are maybe short in cash, and hey, I don't require your growth expertise. I just need money to recoup faster. So we can discuss that. Or maybe we do a fee deal where, hey, I know that we are not gonna end up marrying, but we can be really good friends, close friends. So with that, let's see what this relation takes to. Could be 6 months, could be a year, or maybe developer change their perspective. And as well, you gotta keep in mind that the market evolves, right? And we were discussing earlier before we started the call at the backstage. Um, Hyper casual or casual developers and so on, evaluations that were happening 6 months, a year ago, right now, and in the following months, you won't see this happening because the macroeconomic conditions are changing. A crisis we're already ongoing a recession. It's gonna get worse. So guess what's gonna happen next? Companies are gonna be more tight on money. They're gonna have more requests, or they won't be willing to give away as much cash as they were willing to, or developers won't be able to get as much as they used to. So that changes as well the dynamics and the conversations that we had, to the point where previous conversations that we had with developers, which were like, hey, I'm not interested because X, Y, and Z, these X, Y, and Z changed completely because now the macroeconomics changed a lot. And as such, they maybe didn't require more help or assistance in specific points that 6 months or a year ago, they felt like, I don't need to think on because X, Y, and Z.
And just the one question I wanted to ask before Felix asked this one, it's you mentioned PLTV. So what kind of data are you using to model the LTV? Is it the data from the UA test or the previous campaigns that the developer ran?
It's with a short test that we're gonna do. It's gonna be extremely hard for us to be able to. We can build a curve, of course, but a curve based, as you probably know, Matej, on 10K, 15K. Okay, it's in a soft launch and it's a technical launch. Okay, that is what I have. But I rather rely on what I've seen the developer has done in the last year, 2 years or so. However, you could argue as well that the developer maybe doesn't know best on what they are doing on UA, or maybe the type of users that we're acquiring are crap. So it's one of those that you kind of. Okay, we want to be 85% confident. 85% confident. I think is a pretty high standard that we are going to be able to grow this game. But there is I mean, again, as I was mentioning earlier, it's really, really hard to be able to be so good at it, to be able to pinpoint exactly how much more you're going to grow or how the projection is going to work out. Obviously, the more data you're baking, the better your predictive LTV is going to become. It obviously it has happened many instances where our initial data was showcasing an LTV curve, and then we start running or we start trying to scale the game, 45K, 50K, 60K a month in UA spend. It's like, shit, this is not growing as we thought. Or the other way around. It's like, oh, it's okay, this game, whatever, and then you have those what we call in English the dark horse type of thing. Like, I didn't expect this one will do good at all. Or it's like, okay, this is a not remnant, but like, okay, let's get them on board, but we're doing them a favor. Like, next thing, like, shit, these are the best one in the quarter. So it's actually quite interesting to see from. It's quite hectic, as you can expect, because we see many games and we discuss with many developers and so on. But it's really interesting to see, or not to pinpoint, but kind of like your gut. It's nice to be able to work out your gut feeling and go as well beyond what data tells you. You play the game, you talk to the developer, you see what they're working on, you do some UA, and then more often than not, beyond 85% confidence level, Enric, can kind of somewhat state if the game is going to work out or not. The problem is that my gut feeling it's not database, it's gut, right? So
Of
then
course.
working that out to internally, it's like, okay, but how? Okay, but now we gotta put it on the paper on Excel spreadsheet
Yeah.
how this represents or what this gut feeling that you were stating. It's not. By the way, it's not only me. We have a really big and capable team. So I'm more overseeing and trying to elevate and lead the team rather than doing it myself. So
Yeah.
I don't
So
want to take any
how
of
big
that
is your
credit at
team?
all.
How big is your team?
About 30-ish. It depends on how you, because some of the team, for instance, insights team or the customer success manager team, I'm not managing directly, but
Yeah.
I'm elbow to elbow. So ultimately, it falls into the same growth structure, which goes down from the chief growth officer to me. But then, obviously, from a manager perspective, I honestly believe that beyond 5 to 8 people, you directly managing those,
Mm.
it's beyond a proper manager capabilities. Now, there might
Yeah.
be some managers who are outstanding and say, "Oh, I'm managing 20 people, I'm doing great." Well, good for you. I don't. I'm also. I mean, my agenda is I have 8-10 hours a day. I want to have at least one-on-one weekly, bi-weekly.
Yeah.
I have as well teams under those leads, which I'm gonna have discussions every now and then too. I don't know how these other managers are able to manage these massive teams, but I rely heavily on my leads, UA
Mhm.
lead, mechanic lead, magician, and so on, to be able to manage their teams effectively. So when you are able to elevate your leads and their teams, that's I think what's ultimately the best way, or I think, in my opinion, that's the manager job, right? Rather than trying to
Exactly.
micromanage and just talking because it's humanly impossible.
Yeah.
Some people might think otherwise, but I honestly I can't think. At least with my management style, I cannot make that happen.
Yeah. Exactly. It's about the management style. I mean, there were times when we had the previous company, not dropping any names, like 25 people in marketing team, which I managed. Well, it wasn't my job on paper, but eventually I managed those people, and it was like really super hard. So you can do it, but you can't do anything else. You just manage people and just trying to take care of them so they can work for
Precisely, but
100%.
you don't. I don't think you. I think honestly that it's that you don't provide the quality time that lead or human being deserves. And it's just like if you're talking, you can, as you said, you can't just take action on those topics.
Yeah.
And it's just ultimately you become like, hey, and in fact, I already feel that way. It is part of my job, right? But many of my calendar hours going to be talking to another human being just to work out yes, it's lag and so on, but you can't change. Okay, it's on a webcam. It's not going to be person to person, but you
Yeah.
can't change that human interaction as far as I can tell or I can do. So I'm keeping that in mind. 5, 8 people tops. Beyond that, it's gonna get complicated, or you need to
Yeah.
start cutting down on some of that quality time that I call it.
And how do you structure the team in terms of let's say UA? So is it based on the games or based on the channels, geos, platforms? Like how does that look like?
That's a really good question. So right now, the UA team is a structure. So each one manages a set of games, and
Yeah.
then we have call it a representative that is representing the company towards a specific network. So we're gonna have a bi-weekly or weekly call with Facebook, a
Yeah.
call with TikTok, which by the way we do have several contacts. So next time you need a contact, let me know. I can put you in touch with
Of course, we'll do. Yeah.
I listen to the previous episode. With Google as well, Unity and so on. So obviously we want all of us be on those calls, but we have one of our UA team members going to be the person in charge of like managing those
Yeah.
relationships, and then kind of like, hey, new report comes in, or they came, I don't know, this new value optimization campaign, so let's give it a go, or they give us
Yeah.
so credit to test this type of campaign.
Mhm.
Guys, who's interested? And then so we have these representatives internally, and then what I'm conscious about too is that you on the paper you would want the UA to become a UA person to become a specialist on a specific game or genre. So this person only manages 4X, or this manages a
Mhm.
match 3 puzzle. Why? Because they get that gut feeling. Okay, what best creatives work because I'm managing other games and I know that this works better, or these channels do best, etc. The problem is that as human beings, you tend to get bored, or I'm conscious that you will get bored of doing more and more of the same. And ultimately, UA tends to be quite a repetitive. Setting up campaigns, I'm optimizing campaigns, I'm talking to the creative team, I'm talking to the network, and it's just more of the same. So I'm as well aware that you want to provide every now and then a change of the flavor of the games that you manage. So in an ideal world, UA manager will always manage the same type of games or be embedded within a specific game title. But I try, or we do an active effort to try to swap UA managers every now and then, discuss with them as well. Hey, for the last three games that you managed, it was a story-based game. How about now we try a puzzle game? Because as well, it gives them a different perspective, and they can perhaps bring some of the insights or the expertise that they took from a different game genre and apply to a different game title or the genre, I said, yes.
Yeah. How many games one UA manager can handle in your company? Because I have this like thinking of junior versus senior people in terms of the UA, and I believe like one senior UA person can handle, I would say, around like 1 or 1.5 million a month budget, but it very much depends on the game, creative process, and everything. But it's like, how do you think about these things? Because of course, like nobody wants to be burned out after a certain
Correct.
amount of time working super hard.
It depends, as you said, on the size of the game and how much we're spending, and on the status of the game. Is a launch, or it's on a harvest mode. So we are actually dwelling down now on our spend. On average, it's going to be between 3 to 5 games on average.
Okay. Yeah.
That's gonna, but again, that really depends.
Depends on the spend. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't know. We just released. I'm actually gonna use a recent example. M&Ms.
Nice.
We released M&Ms Adventure. I think it was 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about hefty budgets, like million plus and the likes. Okay, and it's an important title for us. I want you to actually. I know you have other games that you're managing, but your eyes and hands should be on this title because this is what's being released right now.
The highest priority. Yeah.
Correct. But then others, hey, I'm just managing, or I'm just gonna make this up perhaps. I'm managing 5 titles that are in live publishing. 3 of them or 2 of them are not. We know that they are struggling to grow. So it's like that we're gonna start discussing on the separate ways on, hey, this is not working out. Let's cut it off. And then you have 2 other games. One of them is doing okay, and the other one is doing great. Ultimately, you want that UA person to focus on the game that's doing great. That being said, and as you well said, it depends as well on the level of seniority. In a real world, you would have a UA, but this can be applied to anyone, on any other area. So I'm talking about UA specifically, but this can be any area. Ideally, you would get that person to make that call and say, okay, this game is working best, so I'm going to invest most of my time on this game because I can tell that it's growing and it makes sense from a business perspective to do so. In reality, though, this call is only made by people who has been in the space, not a tilting point, in the space for a few years. Okay, there are some outliers, people who just after 1-2 years are making a start to make this call like, okay, this is someone who you can tell is going to go places. But others are stuck like they need someone that comes from the top and states, no, you do not do this because it's, again, it seems one of those that it's like, duh, it's obvious. But once you're managing so many people on so many games, you realize that what you might think that it's an obvious take or, it's a duh thing, not everyone is going to see that. So you will try, or at least we do, or I do the active effort to try to get people to understand it, to see, okay, do you understand why we're making this decision? But not everyone is making that click, or it takes them longer than I would like to for them to make that click in their brain and just make that active decision.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I always say that you need to get this experience not by like a number of years you're in the industry, or maybe it's connected to the years in the industry, but also like level of spend. So if you spend, I don't know, 20,000 in your career, and even if you are in the space for 8 years, you won't have those exact experiences as someone who spent 5 million, for example. And this is like where the click comes in.
But it's good to see as well. Some of I don't know. Maybe I had higher standards. I had higher standards or myself when I was younger. I'm getting old. Getting old.
We all are.
Beard is getting white hair and so on. But I recall back then, 8 years, 10 years ago, I do recall myself making an active effort. Okay, what's the best for the company, or what I'm doing this, or which maybe I was an account manager back then. Okay, which account deserves more of my time? And to me, it was it makes total sense. I'm going to invest more of my time on this account because it's bringing 70% of the revenue to the company, or on my accounts.
Yeah.
This one again, it's an obvious thing, but I'm seeing after now become a manager, managing more people and so on, that what I thought was a given, it's not so much. So it could, as you said, it could well be that it takes a bit for that person to get acquainted with that and make the click, and others come naturally, and others, it's just simply they will not get there. There's like I call them, they have the blinders like a horse or a donkey, and they just like see they do. Don't get me wrong, they work and they work really hard.
Yeah, exactly. We also need these type of people. That's completely normal. But like you said, there is some certain like business perspective that is in some people, and in others it takes some time to actually understand like how it's working. Because I know we had a lot of different colleagues back in the days who didn't understand like the business, like the gaming industry is business. It's all about business and making money, and everybody was like, oh well, but we are doing these games for the players and they love it. It's like, yeah, of course, but how do you pay bills? Like you can't pay bills with just players like your game. This is not going to happen, and we need
I always say
yeah.
we're not running a charity, we're running a business, not just in fun. I always say that.
That's the game industry. Business. Of course.
It is. So of course we do it for the love of games, but you don't. Yes, but don't forget who's paying your bills. It's not gonna be it's not gonna be because this game is so great or we got so many good reviews. No,
exactly.
Cash is gonna pay you your salaries, and that's ultimately the decision should be based on those. Yes, you can argue some projects. You could do it for the love of games, or maybe you can have some components. It could be, I don't know. And we did it with some games like Terra Genesis, where we plant a tree, or we have some sort of like takes that are not wouldn't be as profitable as they could be, but ultimately there is an active rationale or a thought behind that action, whereas that's been done in purpose. The problem is when that's not done in purpose and I'm just doing, that's fine. The easiest way I think just to wrap it up with this question is that you want to identify those people under your team that are not clicking or are making that active decision, and try to assist them or elevate them or teach them, okay, or do you understand what we're doing this, or do you get it? And then just keep iterating on this until hopefully it clicks in their head, and then we can you actually get someone else at the level that you hope that your team is at.
And also, I found out the Tilting Point is hiring UA managers. So everybody out there, just
please
reach out to Enric.
If you have gaming experience and you would like to work with, how you introduce me with the most important,
super important VP of growth.
VP with a nice beard.
Nice beard. Yeah, there you go. Please ping me on LinkedIn or Twitter, Enric Pedró. I'm happy to put you in touch. I do not get any commission or referral because I'm VP. So, but I'm eagerly looking for UA people to join us, and extremely hard to get talented people in the space.
If you still can't find anyone until next month, just hire me as a consultant. It's gonna be There you go. There you go.
Plugging there.
Of course, because I'm getting these LinkedIn messages like, hey, so there is a company in Barcelona, they're hiring UMN. It's like, yeah, okay.
But but what were you talking about? You didn't apply to any jobs.
No, I didn't. But the recruiters are actively, trying to snatch me to different companies.
I actively told them to ping you every week.
Very
or so
good. Yeah,
to
you're
send you,
doing very good job. Nice. Okay, so I think how about creatives? Like how do you approach creatives? You mentioned like the UA teams talking to the creative leads, and like how does that process look like, and how often do you like produce a new creatives? Because I imagine with 40 games it can be pretty interesting operations.
A lot of creatives.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of craze. And in fact, we have been. It's funny you mentioned this because we have been today, last week, last month, we're doing an active effort to break down on how much we have invested by hours, by game,
Yeah. Nice.
for this year, last previous years, and so on, and try to not try working out where we are might be investing too much resources and
Yeah.
what games we supposedly we're investing resources, but we not as such. How we normally do it? Obviously, we will have the insights. So we got a new game. Okay, we're gonna get a new game comes on board. We're gonna have we're gonna do an onboarding form where the developer is providing several insights from SDK down to the
Yeah.
target audience. Creatives that they use, what they're seeing. Obviously, we have access to their accounts, so we've seen as well what creatives are working or what they tried in the past. So we're gonna start with that. Then we're gonna refer as well to what we have managed or what we currently manage inside internally from the same genre or type of game, and then see what is working in the space right now or what has been or what worked in the past, and then try to replicate that with a new title that is coming on board. How we do this take, we're using it's called a Milanote, which is like a kind of a Trello, like a board where you can set different folders and so on. So that's what our creative team uses, but as well as our organic and UA team. And so we are inputting all those insights there. And then we have as well our brainstorm sessions where the creative team is pitching ideas, and then we discuss these with the UA team. Organic team has to say as well on how icons, screens, and so on. Maybe when they want a split screen, maybe they've seen competitors trying this different icon. We should give it a go to this, and then we keep we hopefully we open these tickets through Jira, and then after 2 weeks, a month, we get this creative set. What we are actively working on, I mean, this on the paper sounds great. At least I wouldn't foresee anyone being surprised by this process. It's pretty straightforward. What we're trying to actively do is being more fast with the iteration and try to piggyback on world events. One that rings a bell is that I was discussing with a developer not long ago in one event in Barcelona. We were working with a football / soccer game, so soccer for Americans, football for Europeans, where they were telling us, which makes total sense, is that hey, when you know that I don't know Barcelona, Real Madrid is having a game, they will make specific creatives for that game. Or I don't know, back then Cristiano Ronaldo or I don't know Messi, which is no longer Barcelona, but Messi got a penalty kick, which wasn't really a fault because the VAR didn't call it up, whatever. So we're gonna make or produce a creative based on that specific event, which the user, the prospect audience, which is obviously a football or soccer fan, is like, oh shit, that's so relevant. Like again, I need to play this game because obviously that's the match that happened. They know about this. So that's one example. But in order to do that, okay. On the smaller teams, when I have the UA, I am the UA manager, the organic or the ASL manager, and I have someone who is creative that does everything in house. Then it's really easy for me to go to that person and like, okay, let's get this creative done because that was what happened yesterday. When you're managing, as you said, 40 games, big title, big company, many persons, and so on, it's harder to be able to be so fast on iterating. So that's something that we are actively working on being able to call it world trends. So some of these world trends might be relevant to some games, but you can always find something that kind of like makes the target audience feel like, oh, this is something that it's I can relate to, and it's something that I've seen on the news, or I know that it's something going on, and that tends to do the click and get that extra click or the APM and so on.
Yeah, I've seen and we used this way before when the Witcher series was launched on Netflix. So we used the appearance of Witcher and tried to do it in one of our games, and immediately the creative exploded. So apparently this has very nice effect on the efficiency on the creative. But so how does this creative approach or any UA approach changes from the Web3 or to Web2 to the Web3? Because I've read somewhere that the Web3 is a strategy that now is in one of your core strategic pillars. So can you elaborate a little bit more about like how the tilting point is going to this like blockchain space, and how you can build
As a as a as
help
a as a cri- as sure as a crypto bro myself, I'm extremely
Hey.
excited to see that. Yay! All right, yay! I'm extremely excited to see that we are making active efforts to move towards Web3. So we recently, I think a couple of months ago or a month ago, we released that we got into a partnership with Polygon Matic,
Yeah.
where our aim is to start working or moving some titles from Web2 to Web3, using or leveraging a Matic, which is, for those who don't know, it's a layer 2 on Ethereum, which has faster transactions and low gas fees. To the question about creatives, what I know from a crypto, from someone who is NFT crypto enthusiast, and I have been participating in several
Nice.
projects from a personal level. Community is everything. So it's, yes, there is a strong, of course, there is a creative component where you can try to, maybe go on specific sites about NFT memes and so on, and try maybe to work on a CPC CPM basis and get some banners there. But it's gonna, I know that a lot of the work that I know and we're working on is to build on our build communities behind those projects.
Yeah.
The beauty from moving from Web 2 to Web 3 is that what I see or what the industry sees on Web 3 is that in most instances, first they worry about the NFT meme, and then they worry about making the game fun, or in fact, they don't even have a game working at all. There is no core, there is no game loop, there is no meta, there is nothing. It's just like some white paper, they just copy paste some ideas, put it together, and we will work it out in 6 months. The beauty with Web 2 is that we know that this game is fun, or there is a certain retention metrics, or retention metric is going to be ultimately what dictates how good the game is. It is, because ultimately, the more the recurrent base it is playing, it tells you the game is fun. So when you already have that on a Web 2, if we are able to spin that out with a Web 3 element, that I think, because the game is fun already, so if we can make the game fun on a Web 3, I think we are onto something. So I'm excited to say that we are actively working with already a few titles. Some of them are going to come out really soon.
Nice.
It's a lot of work. We are as well learning by doing, don't get me wrong. And whoever says that they know about blockchain tokenomics or
lying.
NFT drops,
Yeah,
it's
we
BS.
are scaling
I
blockchain
tell you.
games. Oh yeah, sure, of
No,
course.
no.
Yeah.
Sure,
Bullshit.
sure.
And this is not
Sure,
bullshit gaming podcast. We called it
It's
out.
4
no
a.m.
worries.
So it is BS. So whoever, I mean, Enric, but I managed to get a discount. Yeah, okay, fine. But that's it's such a niche or
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
an expertise that it's still being built and learned as
Yeah,
I was
it's
saying
super
the other day.
early. Anyway, it's super early.
It is
So
super early, and in crypto, one day is 1 week, 1 week is one month, 1 month is 1 year.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So with you keep that in mind, when I'm hearing all these people, or I see these statements, it's more on the PR thing. And I try to be as transparent as possible with things, both my personal and business life. What I see this type of, I'm just really worried with these, and they don't know what you're talking about. It's just that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And to me, it's funny because I've been in the mobile space for over a decade now. It has that feeling of what was the mobile. I call it the Wild West back then, where it was like running CPI campaigns without any in-app events whatsoever. When MMPs were starting, it was all fraud, and it was like
Incense
what
traffic.
we were seeing what campaigns were. You were seeing what campaigns
incentivized
were running
traffic.
back
Yeah,
then.
good old days.
Good old days, which are coming back. But anyway, so
Yeah.
it reminds me of that now with crypto, which is exciting because it's like that closing the life cycle of the loop, and it's like, oh, this sounds familiar. Oh, I seen this happening, and it was like, hold on, that's exactly what's happening again 10 years ago. So I think there's this new wave as well of obviously new people coming to the space. People are growing up and they start getting jobs and getting interested. And the next big thing, I think it is Web3, not only NFTs, but Web3 in general.
Yeah.
So again, as I said earlier on this, I'm really excited to see that tilting point we're moving towards that and trying to be trying to be a leader on that space because that's probably the next frontier that we're going to cross in.
How,
Do any of these games have a mobile client coming up?
A mobile?
Mobile client, yeah. If any of these have a mobile client on their roadmap.
But it's navigating that with Google and Apple. It's interesting, and I can tell you that Apple has a list ongoing where they're actively reviewing projects to see or to dictate if they're good to go and what can be and what cannot be done. I've seen a few games that are cleverly taking that for a wave of idle games where they're like you're managing a mining operation. So you're mining Bitcoin, XRP, and so on, and then they're providing a mean for the player to actually get some satoshis or BTC out from the game to their existing wallet. So this, I think, is a really clever approach, and just that's the tip of the iceberg. But to your question, yes, we are actively working on getting these wallets on mobile. What I'm seeing, or what I can tell you that I'm foreseeing is going to be the main issue, is that you want to evangelize not the crypto bros or the person like me who's used to use MetaMask and has been tracking with and paid too much in gas in the last 2 years. I get it, and I know what I need to do. I know what's my volatile risk and so on. But that person who either doesn't understand or they just want to play the game, they couldn't care less about creating a wallet, or they don't trust, or they hear, oh, crypto is all a Ponzi scheme, and I don't want to get involved in this. Well, to start with, that user, it's likely not to be your user base, so they don't really bother to play your game. But those who have like, oh, interesting, how do I do that? That's how I do that. I'm taking them all the process, creating the wallet, setting up the assets, transferring the assets from your hard wallet, from your on-chain to the in-game and so on. That's way easier said than done. So there's going to be a lot of work, not only by tilting point, but overall for many of these companies working on actively on Web3 or Web2 to Web3 to evangelize and get the users in a real world. You will get the user to use blockchain or Web3 without them knowing what they're doing so.
Yeah,
but
how tilting
we're
point
still far
can
away
help
from that.
the companies reach the broader audiences? Like community is fine, and building community is the core of the whole blockchain space. But then if you want to scale the game, like what would be the US strategy there? Because you can't just rely only on community. I mean, that's
Of course. So then the community you want, so you have, let's say you have a Web2 game that is already Web3. You have the wallet integrated, ideal wallet. The game is integrated with a wallet. The wallet is working fine. You have the NFT drop. You have a sold out. So you have 10,000 minutes. So let's say we're starting with a good background. Okay, I would still is a Web2. It's Web2. It's a mobile game, right? So I will still leverage what I'm actively doing on my my mobile games.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Like normal games, like
normal,
free to play mobile game. Exactly.
But then there's interesting because if you have the mobile game and you done or the developer done its homework, the next thing should be coming on the roadmap. It's having maybe it's going to be a WebGL or maybe it's going to be the Unity client who's able to run on your browser. That opens a new door to many users like myself. I'm one of those. I'm not going to use my phone for anything crypto related. Yes, I'm going to track my portfolio and maybe check my NFTs on OpenSea, which is crap by the way on mobile. But my day to day, it's going to be done through desktop. So if the game, it's really cool that you have your game on mobile and you're going the wallet, but Enric, I want to interact and play your game on my browser, or at least on my mobile browser. But I know that's as well on a personal level. I don't trust my mobile phone for this type of interactions. So ideally, you will have that developer developing that side. So you're opening we'll call it the desktop traffic as well, and that allows you to start doing more of a growth hacking or growth hack approaches. It could be building up, okay, community, but maybe it's on Twitter. Maybe you start pinging people on Twitter and you're being more aggressive on getting them, not necessarily through the DMs, but maybe you start promoting more aggressively about your game. Or maybe you're going through not your Discord channel server, you're going through other Discord servers, which is they talk about games or talk about next big things being done, and you are pretending to be one of their users, and you like chilling,
inviting people to your Discord. Yeah,
correct. So it's a bit of a murky waters, but ultimately, if you look, and it's funny, it's somewhat related. I was looking into it yesterday. In fact, I tweeted about it yesterday. The famous Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is the monkeys. Well, for those who don't know, it's one of the most well known beyond the punks NFTs. They started. It was back in April last year, and I'm on some of these servers, and I saw the founder. His name is Gordon, shilling the Ape Club to everyone. Hey, Minded is happening. Hey guys, join us. And it's funny because you can tell people were joking about it back then. And after the fact, a year later, people are like, shit, this guy came on board and he was providing generational wealth to many of us, and everyone ignored him. But it's one of those that my tweet was what he was doing back then a year ago wouldn't apply right now. Because if you were to do this right now, you will probably likely be banned or kicked out from the server, or you will be like, dude, stop chilling your shitty project. I already know, I already seen 10,000 like yours. So it's a lot of it's murky waters, and what you've seen that work in the past. As I said earlier, one month is 1 year in crypto. Gosh, 1 year is going to be a decade. So what worked a year ago isn't going to work. So we've now Gordon. I can't recall his last name. Sorry. I recall his tag name. If Gordon now wants to do this to the servers that I'm referring to, that will be unlikely to work out, nor for them to be able to get where they are right now. But just time is luck.
Yeah, with this Web3 in mind, so is this going to be like a cornerstone of your like future activities, or like what would be the long-term goal of the whole tilting point? Are you moving like full towards the crypto, or like how does that look like?
There is still, so obviously tilting point is, we want to be at the forefront of what's being done in gaming, or mobile gaming, better said. Although these are becoming blurred lines, because then when we talk about mobile gaming, we're discussing about, okay, but we're going to do a port to the Windows Store, and now we're going to have the game on Amazon, and now we're going to try X. So this goes beyond what your mobile device is, just because technology is evolving as well. And as such, in not such a distant future, and now it's when it's about 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., and Enric starts ranting with the alcohol. For right now, I'm only having coffee. But in not such distant future, you won't make a difference between your mobile device and your. I was telling you earlier, I'm not using my mobile device because I don't trust this. I only use my browser. In not such a distant future, my desktop and my mobile device are going to be the same. I'm not going to, it's not sure, it's going to be a different size in the screen and so on, but I'm going to have the same capabilities and the same type of interaction that I'm having with my existing laptop. So with that in mind, I think that the take is not for us to forget about Web 2, or as I said, quote unquote normal games, and that there's I don't know, we're gonna do crypto now. That's not the point by no means, but it's good as a company that we are actively working on that, because we believe that's the next frontier that gaming is gonna encounter. Now, there are many people in the space, gaming space, who are questioning the need for blockchain or the Ponzi schemes and so on. But I think I was discussing with Felix a couple of weeks ago. It's similar to what free to play was back then, when mobile games were not free. So you had to pay $4, $3, and so on. And then the idea came about, hey, how about if we release a game for free and we monetize it with in-app purchases? Most companies back then, hands on their head, oh my God, what are you talking about? This is impossible. This is nonsense. This isn't going to go anywhere. Well, a few years later, it did. So I'm not saying that it's hard for me to state this is going to happen 100% with Web3, but when I see that most of my clever friends, some of them are developers, are moving towards blockchain, and I see that they're learning Solidity, or they start doing some, working on projects that are crypto related. I say like, shit, most of my clever friends or writers, people that I know in the space, are actively moving towards that. Well, it's not about the Ponzi schemes or the making money. Sure, it's an easy way to make money right now because you're riding the next wave, but that clearly states that there is something happening there and you don't want to ignore it. So tilting point on that regard, the project we have is we are realizing this is happening, we are aware of it, and as such, we want to be one of the first ones that actually is not only saying that we know what we do, but actually we are learning from doing, and actually we're doing, and we're successfully doing so. So again, I said earlier, it's hard to find someone with that expertise because it's so early. So the time to build that expertise, it's now, and that's what Tilting Point is doing currently.
Nice. Okay, so that would be the kind of like long-term goal of the company, just to be on all fronts, I guess. But
there are many I cannot disclose. We are actually working on many sexy things, I would say, but it's on the work, so I don't want to
say any titles that are coming out, like any Web3 titles that are coming out soon?
Not let's call it Web3. If you look into Web3 entities and what's happening and decentralized, etc., I'm not going to say more words. So we're actively looking into how we can spin that with Tilting Point. So there are really interesting conversations that we're having internally. It's just that we are actively working out this week, last month, last quarter, on how this is going to look like and what its Tilting Point role in the space. But things like our partnership with Polygon Matic kind of states that we are actually really serious about it.
Nice. And I think with that in mind, I would like to thank you, Enric, for coming to be here and to speak about Tilting Point, multiple things from the UA, creatives, Web3. And I would like to thank you, our listeners, to be with us until now. Thank you very much. Hit the subscribe button, and until next time. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thank you.